with certain pre-supported rafts, my GK3 struggles to print them, which isn't good because a lot of pre-supported files will use these rafts. I tried re-leveling the 3D printer again, I tried changing the FEP film, I even tried flashing new firmware, but the problem was still there. However, it wasn't until my Saturn IV Ultra 16K just refused to work overnight properly for the last week that I found the solution. I can't take any credit for this because this has been known for years in blog posts, and a Reddit user called Darren Roscoe, hopefully I've said your name right, sorry, has been spreading this information for the Saturn IV Ultras, and while it didn't help me with my Saturn, it did help me with my other printers, so thanks Darren. But not only does this solve the raft problem, but it also is great for the 3D printers because my bottom exposure times are now 15 seconds, which means the LCD screen will hopefully last its full 2000 hours. The simple solution is that resin 3D printers need more wait time. Usually, people print with 1 to 2 seconds of wait time per layer, and I have even gone as high as 4 seconds, but for the bottom layers, we actually need anywhere between 20 and 50 seconds depending on the resin. It sounds like a lot, but it's only for the bottom layers, and it really only adds on less than 30 minutes to the total time of the print. But for me, it actually prints faster because I can use a shorter wait time for the normal layers now. So, how do we do this? Well, first of all, you need Sheet2Box, and you need to download the most essential program for resin 3D printing called UV Tools. This is a very powerful program, and I honestly thought it was only used to check for islands on a 3D print, but it can do so much more, and I am going to continue experimenting with it to see how much I can do with this free program. Just before we start, you may need to check if your 3D printer supports files written by UV Tools. I can confirm the Elegoo Saturn IV Ultra 16K and Uniformation GK3 and GK3 Pro can read the files, but I haven't got any more printers to hand to check this out. So please, after you have checked, can you leave a comment to let me know if your 3D printer can or can't read them, and I can make a master list to make it easier for brothers in the future. If your printer can't read UV Tools written files, then you have to do it manually, which I'll cover a little later on. So, if you're ready to go, then first open up your calibrated resin settings in Sheet2Box for your 3D printer. If you haven't calibrated your printer yet, then you need to do that. So quickly do that with some exposure finders, which I'll link down below, and come back when you're ready. Now, change your bottom layers to 5 and your bottom exposure time to 15 seconds with 7 transition layers. If you're using thicker resin, then you will want 10 transition layers, but to be honest, this may be overwritten later on anyway. Now, slice your file in Sheet2Box so you have a workable .ctb file. Once that has saved, we will now open up UV Tools and drag our slice.ctb file in, and then access the suggestion settings by going here and then here. This will bring up a new window with half a dozen menus, but we only want one of them, which is the wait time before cure. So work your way through the others and make sure to turn them off by toggling this switch up here. In the wait time before cure setting, make sure this checkbox is ticked so there is an empty first layer. Don't worry, this won't mess up your leveling. This is ticked because some 3D printers just won't take these settings into account for the first layer unless it is ticked. So if you are using thin resin, then you will want to use these settings. The set type should be fixed. Use a fixed time. For the bottom height, if you are 3D printing with a 0.03mm layer height, then 0.60mm is good. And if you are printing with a 0.05mm layer height, then you can use 0.50mm. Now the important setting. The bottom wait time should be 20 seconds, going to 1 second normal, and I actually have the transition layers set at 15. but it's all depending on your resin. So you can start at 7 and work your way up if you think it needs more. The limits for the bottom should be set to 10 seconds minimum and 20 seconds maximum, and for the normal, 0 seconds minimum and 4 seconds maximum. Now, if you are using thick resin like Sunlu's 14K standard resin, then you will want to use 40 to 60 seconds wait time on the bottom layers and 2 seconds on the normal wait time. For the transition layers, I have went as high as 25, but you can start at 15 to 20. This does still need a little experimenting with. The limits are 10 minimum on the bottom and 40 to 60 seconds maximum, depending on how long your wait time you set earlier. The normal limits are going to be 0 seconds normal minimum and 4 seconds maximum. Now press save, and I recommend you to export this setting to somewhere so you can quickly jump between the thin and thick settings if you need to. Plus, it's good to have a backup. Now exit out of this window, and on the suggestions tab on the left, select the wait time before cure so it's highlighted, and then apply, and then yes. And now all that's left to do is just save it and overwrite your original .ctb file. You can use this file in a USB stick or send it by Sheet 2 Manager by selecting this little button here and dragging the file in, and then choosing your printer and press send. If your printer can't read the UV files, then sorry brother, you will have to do this manually by setting your wait time to 20 seconds for thin resins and between 40 and 60 for thick resins in Sheet 2 box before slicing, and then setting a series of timers on your phone to lower it after 10 minutes for the remainder of the print. You are basically going to be doing what the transition layers do automatically. I haven't tested this myself, but I have been told this is the method to do. And voila! No more fails with models not sticking to the plate. And a bonus is your screen won't be getting fried as much. I have tested this out on, first of all, crisis suits that came pre-supported, and before doing this, I was getting failures in random spots, and after leveling, they got a little better, but then became new failures. And this honestly frustrated me for so long, but this is the exact same plate with the UV tool fix. But I didn't want to do this video without making sure, so I also printed out a Brutalis Dreadnought that I had tried before, and consistently these legs and feet just would not print whatsoever. But now, after the UV tool fix, it has printed perfectly. If you are using a Saturn IV Ultra 16K, and even if you're one of the ones that comments on my video telling me that your printer works fine and it must be mine or my skill issue, then you should still do this because of the way the auto leveling plate works. It is pushing down into the screen, and with that force plus high exposure times on the bottom layers, there are quite a few people now having their screens die after 200 hours instead of the usual 2000 hours. This should be talked about more by not only the community, but by the companies themselves, and it should be more well known because I've been 3D printing for 3 years, and this is the first time I've heard of having wait times this long. I know, shock horror, a YouTuber who isn't a complete expert on everything 3D printing. But if this video helps one person and their printer, then I've done my job. If you found value in this video, join the Brotherhood and make sure you're subscribed. If you have been struggling with 3D printing, then stop making it harder on yourself and join my private Discord by becoming a Patreon and get access to some of the most helpful and knowledgeable people I have ever met. And some say the Discord is possibly the best Discord in the multiverse. If you want to see what else you can do to help fix your Saturn IV Ultra 16K, including Elegoo's questionable response, then you should watch this video next. As always, I just want to thank all my Patreons and channel members because without your support, none of this is possible. So I'll see you all in the Discord.